You're listening to the Low Pressure Podcast, the podcast for skiers.
Presented by CMH Heli Skiing and Peak Performance.
This episode of the LPP is brought to you by CMH Heli Skiing, Peak Performance Outerwear, Fat Tire Amber Ale, RMU Skis and Mountain Culture Shops, and the official destination partner of the LPP, Kicking Horse Mountain Resort in beautiful Golden, British Columbia. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Low Pressure Podcast. Thanks for having me here at the glorious Sutton Place Hotel.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, we only met, I think, kind of really met briefly in Kicking Horse, Ski Lodge, Engelberg.
Yeah. And maybe Kicking Horse also.
Maybe Kicking Horse.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever had a conversation though.
No, maybe not.
No, just like I said, I was always kind of in the periphery.
Yeah.
While you were competing on the tour.
Yeah.
So we're in Revelstoke now because you just finished a week at Sister Summit, which looked super fun. Gotta tell you, a little bit jealous.
Yeah.
You guys have like an entire crew of. Well, tell us a little bit about your week.
Well, I mean, I honestly, it was super, super fun, and I've followed the idea from Seed, kind of, through Hedvig. I know that Lexi had the idea for quite a long time and then reached out to Hedvig, so it's been quite cool to just see the whole seed growing into this beautiful plant.
The evolution of the whole thing.
Yeah, exactly. And so I was at a North Face Summit before this sister summit, so I spent a little bit of time in North America, and I went to hang out with the girls before the event. So it was just seeing all of the steps and then finally being in Mustang, and I mean, it was so amazing, so many incredible people, and just to be able to ride together and be together and just go in depth with so many different topics was so amazing. And I mean, I didn't really when I came here, when I've seen shots and stuff from Mustang, and I've always seen that it looks like crazy good snow, so that's kind of how I envision it. Yeah, of course we're gonna ski good powder, but then when I came here to Canada, there was no snow, so I was like, okay, who knows, maybe, you can't really expect anything.
And it's November too, so
yeah, exactly, it's early. And then we just had the universe provides, and we got to ski the most epic deep powder every single day.
Yeah, it looked amazing.
It was truly amazing.
For people to be throwing backflips in the backcountry on
the first days of skiing,
25th of November.
Yeah, and the thing was it was for most of the girls, it was the first days on snow, but you kind of forgot about that after the first day. You're okay, is there a base? And kind of some places where it is not super deep, so you had to be a little bit mindful of that. But I mean, then after the first day, you kind of just well, now I'm just in full on winter. And
were those the first days of your season this year?
Yeah, I got to ski 2 days in Mammoth before the summit, but just groomers,
right.
And so pretty much the first days.
So you kind of got your legs back. All it takes is a couple days just for those little muscles that you don't think about to wake up.
Exactly. It's more just, getting ready to, how do I dress? How do I do this? And then when
you get back into the routine.
Yeah, getting back into the routine, and then it's just amazing. So it was truly amazing, and I'm so, so grateful for the girls and all the work that they did, and for everyone being there and everything, all of the unique essence of every single being who was there. It was just, it was really beautiful to watch and to be part of.
Cool. Well, I'd like to get back to that in a bit, but first I'd like to get to know you a little better.
Yeah.
So why don't you, so you're from Sweden.
I'm from Sweden.
Obviously. Why don't you kind of walk me through some of your story as a skier? Did you race when you were a kid? Were you that kid did the race program and then decide that you wanted to do more free ride?
So I mean, I'm one amongst four kids. So I had 3 siblings, and I'm the youngest. And my daddy loved skiing, so he just brought us into the mountains when I was like 3 years old. And I mean, I just remember it was kind of. I just knew like I want to ski, and it gave me so much joy. And I think also because we did it all of us together and as a family,
right?
And just like going on these trips and just doing it because we love to be out in the mountains and to be together and to evolve together. And when I was 6 years old, I started racing. And I grew up in kind of a small, it's not really a resort, it's just like a hill.
What's it called?
Måttsundsbacken.
Where is that?
It's in Luleå, which is the north of Sweden, where I was born.
Way north?
Yeah, it's like it's pretty close to the Arctic Circle.
Okay.
So it's like, it's way north. And on the coast. So it's like, so at that spot, it's not like a lot of mountains. But there is, if you like drive up north, like 3 hours, the mountains kind of,
right.
starts to rise.
So like you said on the coast, so like up like where it meets Norway?
No, on the other side.
Oh, okay.
Where north meets Finland.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So that's where I grew up, and then started racing. So I was skiing, like we were skiing every day after school, like night skiing.
Were you able to like ski to the hill or walk to the hill, or did you still have a little ways to go?
You had to drive. So you had to drive, and Dad was with us every single night.
So it wasn't like an after school program or anything? Your dad just wanted to go skiing?
Yeah. So and Dad was super involved in, like, he was a trainer, and he was like just involved in all of our different passions. Like that was his thing, like whatever you want to do in life, like I'm gonna
his
help.
purpose in life was to like
support us 100%.
Was his kids?
Yeah.
Is he still around?
He's still around.
Okay, sweet.
So he's like the most amazing. Like Mom and Dad, they've been like so good to us. Just like follow your dream. We're gonna support you 100%, and whatever that is. Just
did any of the other siblings go into like professional skiing?
Yeah, so all of them. Like my oldest brother, he was a professional snowboarder, and then my sister, she was mogul skiing for like, I don't know, was it a lot of years in the national team and like in the World Cup and stuff. And then my brother Marcus, he was also like mogul skiing for a bit, and then he was also a lot into music, so he kind of gave that more focus and attention after he graduated from the ski academy. So anyways, racing, skiing every day, every night, and then in the weekends our dad would like, take us to Riksgränsen, which is like my home, my second home. That's where I grew up. Just like
it's like the main resort in the north, right?
Yeah, and like there's that.
Doesn't it mean, what is it? What's the literal translation of it? Someone told me this the other day.
Border of the country.
Yeah, so it's literally on the border, right?
Yeah, okay. The border to Norway.
Yeah.
So that's where I grew up. So we were just like free roaming on the mountain, and it was the best time. I always wanted to go there. And I think that's where my drive for free riding kind of was planted, that seed, but not like I knew, just like the joy that the love for it, love for it, and joy and the connection to those lands is like so deep for me, at least, and for my whole family. And so when I was 12, I kind of I stopped racing, and then my
was there a reason for it?
I was going through like a deep kind of dark period in my life,
like a teenage angst thing, or was it more of like a depression sort of thing?
It was more like a depression. Like I had a pretty severe eating disorder, so I was like, okay, now like everything kind of stopped, and I needed to just heal and take care of myself. So that was a few years of like not so fun, but so good for me, because I learned so much about myself, and
did you distance yourself from skiing during that time?
Well, I was allowed to ski a little bit, but not. At some point, I was like, I wasn't allowed to do anything.
Oh, really? Was it just because of your physical strength?
Because I was like super.
Are you comfortable talking a little bit about it?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I had to be like, I was for a little while at the hospital, just like...
Was it like were you like bulimic or anorexic?
No,
or?
anorexic.
Okay.
So I was like, I wasn't allowed to do any more activities because I was just like...
Didn't have the energy for it.
No, and my body was like, it could not go any more. I just needed to rest.
Right.
And I think, like, for me, why that happened was just I had so much pressure on myself from so many different angles. I just wanted to be the best that I could be in every single area in my life. There was no outside pressure. It was just myself and how I kind of operate. And so
You're kind of your own worst enemy.
Yeah, exactly. And then I just I just went overboard, I guess.
Was there a reason? Did you like? I'm sure when you have to go through, you know, they said you couldn't go skiing. You're going through treatment for that sort of thing. Was there a lot of like psychiatry or mental coaching?
It was psychiatry and like doctors.
Is that the root of something like that? Really, majority of like an eating disorder or something. It's always basically like 90% mental.
I would say, yeah, for sure. Like there's always something that pushes you to. I mean, if it's you drink alcohol, or if you start doing drugs, or if you stop eating, or if you eat too much, or whatever you do, it's always something. It's always a root to it. At least that's how I see it. And then because then you use something outside of yourself you think that's gonna help you, or you're using it to maybe run away from something. And
what was your reason?
I think, like I said, I think it was just like I put so much pressure on myself in so many different avenues in my life, and I just think at some point it just got too much, and I go all in what I do.
Right.
And so, yeah, I just went in something that was not, and I just remember, okay, I just wish I could flick a wand and everything would be normal again. But I also knew that's not gonna happen. I know that I have to do the work, and that would be the easy route.
Do you think that because obviously you're here now and you're at a point now where you're comfortable talking about it, which means that you've had, I guess, a success may be the wrong word for it, but you've been able to deal with it appropriately. Do you feel that going through that time at that younger age, rather than 2 or 3 years later into your teens or your early 20s, was beneficial for you to be able to switch and then be able to turn off that mental drive? Because I guess it correct me if I'm wrong, but you kind of have to reprogram your brain, I guess.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? And do you think it would have been harder to do if you had been 17, 16, 18, maybe in your early 20s?
It's actually a really good question. That's how I was actually pretty stoked. So weird to say that, but I was pretty stoked that I was so young, because I had
thinking back on it.
And also during the time, because I remember, so first I was put kind of forced into hospital for 2 weeks, okay, now you're forced to eat kind of thing.
Was there a moment where someone was like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, they were okay, if you lose more weight now, then we're you're gonna...
Did they think you're just sick with a tapeworm or a disease or something?
They knew it's obvious. And if you live with someone, it's obvious,
right?
And I wanted to kind of stop, but I was just in this thing. I couldn't.
In a cycle, you couldn't get out of it.
I could not get out of it. And my parents were okay, we booked an appointment at a doctor's, and I was okay. I was just surrender. I was okay, thank you, because I can't myself do that. My own voice kind of who I am truly
inside
was
of you,
so small.
Inside of you screaming for help. It was
screaming for help, but I could not allow myself to ask for that help. And so, and then I was it's not we started with a doctor, and going through different kind of ways of just getting through it. But it just kind of got worse in a way. I was getting more crazy thoughts in my head and stuff. And then then I was put to hospital for like 2 weeks, and my mom, she works at that hospital as a doctor's secretary.
Yep.
So, and she had to be there with me, which was like, I was like, oh fuck, like,
kind of
sorry
embarrassing.
mom,
Yeah.
no, like, sorry mom, like, do you have to go through this also? And like
Right.
having all of your colleagues talking and, you know, knowing and seeing her there as well, which was like, and it was also this.
Do you think it might have been a little bit liberating too? Because things like that people usually tend to keep as a secret, like a family secret. Where this way, it's out in the open, and you don't, like, for your mom's point of view, when things are in the open, you don't have to hide it.
Maybe in a way. But the crazy thing was like this. So this place, it was like it was not just like, okay, people with eating disorders. It would be people who, like, refugees who would not be able to stay in Sweden and had to like leave, and they would stop eating, and like,
Oh yeah.
So like there was
hunger strikes and things.
Yeah, hunger strikes, and like people who would cut their wrists, and like there was all kind of different things going on for everyone at that specific section or whatever you
Facility.
want. Facility. And so for me, it was just like, I remember I was there and I was like, whoa, like, why am I here? I stopped eating for what reason, you know? I'm not in, like, my family or my country is not in war. I'm not like, so I remember it was just such a like weird like feeling in place for me, because I didn't feel like, I guess I felt like I know better than this.
Right. And because you were so young, you were stoked that you could come to that realization rather than maybe realize it's a mistake before it got to the point where this is my personality, this is who I am.
Yeah, and I think also like, so that didn't, like, I was there for 2 weeks, and then after, like, we just found another place where you would be there for a week, and then and it was based out of your own freedom, so no one was forcing you. Like, you have to want to become free if you're gonna be here.
Right. And
so you were there for a week, and then you were home for 4 weeks, and then that continues for 6 months, and then after you had like extra days where you could come back and just maybe go for 3 days and then be home for 3 months and stuff. And that place, I was like the youngest person there, and that's where I had more of a deep like gratitude for my young age and going through this process, because there were people who were maybe 40 years old and like in their 20s and in their 30s, and I was just like, okay, but what do I want to do in life? I want to ski, I want to be free, I want to live my calling, I want to give, I want to create. I don't want to end up in that pattern that I saw some people who weren't
maybe as lucky as you were to have somebody or a support group to realize this and help and get them the help that they needed, right?
Yeah, because if you're over 18, nobody can at least in Sweden, nobody can force you to go to the doctors.
Right.
So that's like why I was so happy. And I was also so happy because then I had like through the whole process of like getting like healing my body physically, mentally, spiritually, I just had this mantra like, okay, but because I was 12, I kind of stopped puberty and everything. So do I want to be a kid or do I want to be a woman?
Right.
And so that was kind of
because when your body is literally eating itself, it shuts everything down.
Exactly.
Like you don't really grow, you just exist, right?
Yeah. So for me, it was just a great reminder every time if I would feel like something was hard for me, I would just like, okay, remember, you don't want to be a kid your whole life, like stuck in a kid's body kind of. So that was a great way into just doing what I was supposed to do, just eat and heal. And
was it hard just eating?
It was hard.
Right.
It was hard, but it was still like,
do you still have like those lingering issues? Maybe not issues, but like the thoughts, do they pop in your head every once in a while like you used to have back then?
No, I mean,
you've reprogrammed everything.
Yeah, I have reprogrammed, and that's what like I was just like, okay, I feel like I hit rock bottom so deeply that like I got to see like all of the darkness and go through that. So like if you would have like, I mean, during the process of like the coming back to your freedom or like realizing again your freedom or my freedom, things would pop into my head, and then the more and more time goes on, they're just not, it's just not anything you would listen to anymore, you know?
Yeah. Right.
So,
you're like, I don't have time for this anymore. It's
like
cutting
maybe it's a voice, and then it's like it's just distant, and then it kind of disappears. But then I guess like through all of your life, like you go through any, like, I don't know.
It's almost like an ex-boyfriend or an ex-girlfriend.
Yeah, maybe you have a trauma or anything, like
right.
something like that, and something would pop up, but it would never, like seeing your friends maybe who would go through, that's actually seeing some of my friends who'd start maybe going into that path. I would be like, oh, like I just wish I could, I would obviously talk to them and like try to help them, but then at the end of the day, I know also that you have to want it yourself.
Right.
You have to want to become free in any, like whatever condition you are in, like whatever sickness you have, you have to want to become well to be able to do that also. Right. And so yeah, just so many great tools, I guess, through that process.
Right. And then with the recovery process, you weren't going to school at that time, I'm sure.
No, I wasn't going to. First I wasn't, and then I was going a little bit to school, like half days and stuff. But my school was like, they knew like I was always like super ambitious and like had amazing grades and whatever. So they were really like, they just like, okay, focus on becoming well. And
they let you go at your own pace.
Yeah, exactly. They were like, yeah, she doesn't need to, like, yeah, I was like pretty good in that sense. And so, but then I came back. So when I was 15, I started, I stopped competing in the racing. And then my sister and one of my brothers started with mogul skiing. And I was like, yeah, like this looks super fun. So then I also started that when I like was coming back and like recovered, or like somewhat almost fully recovered. And I started mogul skiing, and then I started competing, and then I got also, my sister and my brother went to the ski academy, and I also I also applied for that. And
it's like a school for skiing.
Yeah, it's like a high school for skiing.
Right. We've had a few people tell me that they've attended one of those over the years, and I always think, why wasn't I ever aware of this?
It was super cool.
I 100% would have. I hated high school. It was terrible. I disliked everything about it. But if it was a skiing component, ooh.
Yeah, it was so fun. I mean, we got to ski almost every day, and like half days of skiing and then half days of school.
I wonder how many more people, if like there were more schools like that, whether it's like a football school or a baseball school. I guarantee you there's lots of those. But I wonder how many students would do better in that situation than regular. Right? I would just get so bored, or like there's kids that just need to go outside and run around in circles, or just get energy out, or activate their brain, so that when they do have that half day, they're so much more focused and so much more productive in that half day than they would be in that full day. Yeah,
exactly. And I think just like following whatever excites you most in each and every moment, and like that was what was exciting for us to ski, and to like I learned so much about myself and about life just through doing a sport and progressing through a sport and traveling and competing and learning so much about yourself when you're competing. And
do you find that once you started, once you got kind of near the end of your healing process, the initial, I'm sure it never stops, but did you find that you're able to replace some of those destructive energies with positive stuff like mogul skiing? Like, were you able to direct that energy back into something positive? You think that's something to do with it?
I think.
Or is it just your personality that I need to, like you said, I need to do everything, I need to get in there?
I think for me it was not like I had it wasn't like there was dark energy that needed to be directed somewhere else. It was more that I needed to, I don't know, just see to learn so this like through life, like, okay, number one, like get to know yourself,
right?
And how do we do that? Well, we do trial and error, I guess, and just get to know all parts of ourselves. And then step number 2, accepting all of myself, accepting all of the flaws and goods, like everything, just accept everything. And then from that step, you can become the creator, which means then you can just, you're free to, you're more open to following whatever is in alignment with what your highest desire and what your calling is in this life. And so I just feel like, just getting to know a lot of different parts of myself and accepting that, and then like when you accept it, when you accept something, it kind of just like falls away. What's not necessary just like naturally falls away.
Right. It's not needed anymore.
No, exactly. And
it serves no purpose.
Yeah, so I see it more that I was not directing an energy in a different way, but rather letting go of what's no longer serving me, so I was more myself again.
Right.
And what I wanted to do was just to ski. And this was a great opportunity to be able to ski every day. But then I also felt like skiing in like moguls and stuff, like it was super fun and super like I evolved a lot as a skier, and it was challenging, and it was beautiful to be in a school where like we had racers and also cross country skiers. So like,
oh really?
So we all hung out and like, learned from each other, and just to be in a place where everyone in my class loved and had passion for the same thing was so elevating, so beautiful, because when it was only like me and my siblings who in our school who was actually loving skiing that much as we did. So now you had like everyone in the same room, like being so stoked about the same thing, and that was so amazing to be in that environment. But then after I graduated from the ski academy, I had a concussion when I was in like the end of the first year, and that took me a while to get well from.
Right.
And then I had a few crashes where I was like, okay, now I kind of have to slow down a little bit. And I was super pumped on like mogul skiing. I was like, everything was going pretty well. But then I just had to like take a like just step back a little bit. And while I was doing that, I was like, maybe I'm not really like, do I actually love what I'm doing right now? Do I enjoy skiing down these moguls? Is this what I want to do? And I just felt, no, it's not really what I want to do.
It's skiing, but maybe not this kind of skiing.
No, exactly. So I decided like, okay, I'm just gonna step back. I'm not gonna compete through this season. I'm just gonna ski for fun, stay home in Åre, which was the place I moved to, and just, work a little bit and ski as much as I can. And so that's what I did, and it was just so fun to finally like, okay, I've competed my whole life.
Just have no rules, go where
and
you
no,
want,
like
when
there's
you want.
no rules. I can do whatever, and I can just like be out. I can
you get those random
hang
POW
out.
days, and you don't have to go and like side slip the course or
exactly
like clear out
ski icy moguls or whatever. Like I can just ski with my friends and have fun. And then I did that, and then towards the end of the season, my friends were like, yeah, you should compete in the Scandinavian Big Mountain Championships.
In May, right?
Yeah, in May in Wisconsin. And I've watched this competition since I was, so little. And I always, that was my favorite thing. I was just watching all...
There's so many unbelievably big names in free skiing came from that event.
Yeah, and we were just, I was just watching and, having people sign their autograph on my helmet. I was super, this was my highlight of the season.
Who was your hero? Who were you, gravitating towards? What were some of your favorite riders back when you were a kid?
So me and my sister Julia, we would kind of just be kind of stalking Sverre and Kai, Sverre Lillekvist and Kai Zachrisson.
Yeah.
So they would come up and ski there, and we would just, we were
when you had the big dreads all over.
Yeah, we were allowed to ski by ourselves. That was just how we did it when we were kids.
Yeah.
And me and my sister, we would just ski after them,
chase them around.
Trace them around the mountain, Yeah, it was just pretty funny. So those two, but I didn't really have a specific person. It was just all of them, like the essence, I think, and like what they exuded and their happiness and their freedom, which was super inspiring. And then, yeah, so that year I just decided, okay, I'm gonna, now I always kind of wanted to participate, but there was always school or
some reason
or camp or whatever for mogul skiing. So it's like, now I don't have like a reason why I wouldn't. So I like signed up, and I was like, what have I done? Why did I? And I was so nervous. I went up there like a week before. I got to ski with Christine Hargan, and like we were a really good crew, and it was super fun. And that same year, Christine and Reine, they both won the Freeride World Tour. So they were both like champs.
Mm-hmm.
They were there, and I said to my friend Pers Bett, who's like, he was a really great mogul skier, and he's such a great skier, and he's from the north as well. I'm like, if you have to help me, like you have to like help me scope my line. And like he's like, okay, I promise, like, because they were kind of like the ones who not pushed me but encouraged me to participate. And I remember I was telling my sister the day before the event, it's like, okay, but I mean, if it's super icy tomorrow, like I don't have to do it, and la la la. And she was like, no, just like relax, it's gonna be fine. And my friend Jesper Björnen, was also a mogul skier and a great skier from Kiruna as well. He was also competing, and he was like, just remember, we're just gonna have fun. It's just Team Soul ski, trying to like give me some just confidence and ease and peace. And so the first day, there's like, what is it, like over 100 participants, and you have like, it's like a random order. So I was like walking up there by myself, hiking up the mountain that I've hiked so many times, skied so many times in my life, since I was young. And I was just standing there in the starting gate, like I kind of didn't know anyone who was like around my starting order.
Right.
And then I just entered the gate, and I was like, all the fear, all the like nervousness and everything just like
is it because of
disappeared?
Because of the training or the competing you did in moguls a little bit, but also this is my mountain, I know this place?
No, it was just the freedom. Like there was just this instant flow and just freedom. And I was just like, I remember that I love skiing. That was the feeling, was like, I love this so much. And I just skied down, and like it felt like 1 second, and then I was down there, and like, oh yeah, there's actually an audience. And like I forgot about the whole, for me it was not like a competition. I didn't think about results. I had no idea like what I was putting myself into. And then so we had 3 days of competition and 4 runs, because they thought that the last run was gonna be canceled due to weather. So we did 2 runs. The second day, the first final day, we did 2 runs back to back. And then the third day, it was like bluebird, beautiful weather. So like, okay, we're going like on the steepest part of this mountain. So it was always like stepping it up, and Pat like helping me like so good with everything.
And you keep moving forward.
Yeah, exactly. And then after 3 days of competition, I was standing as a champion.
You won.
I won, and I was like, whoa, like for me, it was like, I had no, like that was not what the only thing that I did that led up to that moment was just following the highest excitement to the best of my ability without any insistence on the outcome.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And just also like saying that excitement can show up as fear.
Right.
So fear can be excitement disguised in a lack belief.
Right.
So because I had fear before, like the night before, like, what should I do?
Right.
But that was just my excitement. Like I knew, like, okay, you can do this. It's just like a belief that you can't.
Right.
So yeah, and that for me, that was my kind of just
entrance into freeride.
Yeah, that was, and that's from like that's a story for me that's so like a memory that's so beautiful to come back to, because for me it's my greatest example of like really following that excitement and just not knowing, like stepping into the unknown and pushing yourself, and then not having like a fixed idea of what this should look like, but just allowing yourself to be free in that moment and open up to that possibility, and then something beautiful can unfold and you have no idea. And the less your insistence on the outcome, the more can happen, because then at least for me, because then it feels like I'm more open to a like bigger canvas.
I always believe that no expectations is the best way to go into anything.
Exactly.
Right? Because if you have any expectation, even a little bit, you're going to get let down. It's never, ever, ever going to be what you hope it is, no matter what it is. Could be anything from like, I'm going to go do a bunch of errands today, and these are my expectations, to I'm going to go in this tournament, or I'm going to go on a vacation. If you have these big expectations, they're almost always a recipe for a letdown, in my opinion, right? So if you go in, like when I was, for instance, I was in Europe last year for following the tour, and I didn't really make many plans. I just knew where I needed to be, and my mantra the whole time was, they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm going to find out in 10 minutes. I'm living my life 10 minutes at a time. Yeah. And it was such a blast. So you know that some of those days, like back to what you're saying, some of the best days of your life just spontaneously happened. Yeah. Because nothing was planned. You were just with the right people, and cool things happened.
And that's the thing, because then you're leaving room for miracles. Mm-hmm. And that's what, like, my brother, he's such a great example of this, and like he really is a big advocate for that, like to let go of control and structure. Because if I am too much in like air and like time schedule, and I really like, this really resonates for me, because I've seen myself in both sides of this, you know, that you're just like not leaving room for whatever is meant to happen.
Right.
Because you're kind of strangling your own inspiration and your own flow by being like super insistent on like time or whatnot. And I know that sometimes like people want to do that to be more efficient. But the thing is, like, the more you're allowed, or for me at least, the more I allow myself to let go of that, the more efficient things get.
I'm struggling with that in my life right now too, with the podcast, personal life, that sort of thing. Everything you just said, I'm like, that's what I'm dealing with. Is it's almost like you're trying to control everything too much and organize too much in order to get to the point of a little bit more freedom and creativity. Yeah. So you're almost doing the opposite, right? In order to get that result. Yeah,
and the funny thing is just like, if we just stop and like reflect on that, like what is most important to me, like how do I wish to feel? Well, I wish to feel free and creative, and so why am I not giving and living from that instead of living from like a promise of a future that if I do this now, I have to do like hard work and like be stressful, and then I can be free. No. You can be free now.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to wait. You can like just stop and like take a deep breath and just.
And it doesn't necessarily mean giving everything up that you do and completely changing your life. It's just little things that you can do to, like you said, take a deep breath is the first step.
Yeah, and just like let go and just remember, like, okay, I am free and I can do whatever I want to do in each and every moment. And if I can. Yeah, like you said, it's a great example. Like if I can live 10 minutes at a time and just be very present in those 10 minutes, then yeah, maybe I can feel more in my flow. And yeah, so I mean, that was a little game, like
a sidebar. It works though, but it all ties into everything. And like moments like that are really amazing, because like it kind of changed. I don't know if it may have changed your life. Maybe it changed your life, but like there's those moments that you just said, you remember that one, and that kind of is almost like that the green light that you need, or an open door.
Yeah, for sure. It was really, for me, it was an open door to something that I had never really, like I always knew that I love skiing and I want to ski, but I never really had a specific idea of how that would look like.
Right.
And then I just allowed myself to just follow that curiosity, I guess.
And then from there, you move into the next season and start doing
comps and things like that?
So the next season, so after this competition, I remember Jeanette Haragin, she was also a Freeride World Champ, and Christine's older sister, she was judging, and she was just like, after a comp, she was like, you have to compete. I mean, you have to. I mean, you're so talented. You have to go into
it would be a disappointment for you not to, because you're that good.
And I was just like, I just decided that I was not gonna compete, and now someone's telling me that I should compete. And I mean, I just had so many like people coming up to me and being like, yeah, you should like pursue this. But the following season, I was just like, okay, I still felt like I needed to like have that freedom and have that like just breath of like taking a moment to just feel into what the next step for me was.
Mm-hmm.
So that season, I went to Whistler, to Canada, and to Mount Baker with a few friends, and like one of my friends, Tom, he hired his friend as a filmer, and we just like kind of filmed for fun, everyone for their own kind of mini edit or whatever, and then I just did a few like photo things that season, and I did the competition again the following like May, and I crashed the first day, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I was like, okay, but actually maybe I feel like I want to like try a few competitions, just try and see how it goes, you know. And so then the next following year I did like 3 like qualifier events. I didn't have any points because I hadn't been competing there, but then Christine Hargin, she was doing the Verbier Extreme, and it was just postponed due to weather, and at some point she couldn't compete because she was doing like a film thing.
Right.
So then they went like, okay, but do you know anyone who could like take your spot? And she's like, yeah, I know this girl.
Straight into the Verbier Extreme.
Yeah, exactly. So then they like called me, and I'm in Iceland on a shooting, and they're like, yeah, like, hey, do you want to compete on the Verbier Extreme? And I'm like, whoa. And Henrik Winstedt was there as well. I'm like, I got this text, like, what do I do? He's like, what are you gonna do? I'm like, what should I do? And he's like, you should obviously say yes. I'm like, okay. And it's like, yeah, you've skied like the most, like the steepest run that you can do, and so this is gonna be easy. Like, it's not.
And he's a world champ, so
he's
so he was
there
like, to give you some advice.
And like he got
Perfect
me,
guy.
he gave me so much advice, and like, you just go and do it. So then I did that, and while I was there, I was like, wow, this is actually a pretty cool vibe. Like, everyone's super like open and friendly and very like family vibe, and it was just such a beautiful and beautiful competition, and it went like, felt super easy and smooth, and I was like, well, okay, maybe I should next season just try and qualify. And so that's what I did. So the following season I just like, okay, I'm gonna go all in. But I still didn't have any points, so I couldn't really do the 4 stars. But then because I got that wild card, that the people knew who I was and like knew that I could ski, so then they gave me like wild cards for some of the 4-star events.
Right.
And then I won and like got podium, so then I had the points like to actually like qualify for the last 4-star events. And then I qualified, like at the end of the season I was second. Ariana Trikomi was the first, and I was second. So it's like a
3-4 year process for you.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So it was just first like understanding like what do I want, and then like trying, and then like, okay, now I just gonna go all in.
So you did what, 3-4 years on the tour?
So I did there was 2016, 2017, and then 2020.
Right. And then
I'm a good crasher.
it happens.
Yeah.
It happens to the best of them. So then fast forward to now, you're no longer competing again.
No.
Was it kind of a similar transition from like, I'm ready for something new? Was there a moment where you're like, oh, okay?
I think I've never really like felt like, okay, and now I'm closing the door to anything. I'm still open to kind of everything.
So one day there might be the announcement of the Evelina Wildcard for the season.
I don't know. Now I feel like the more I've been, so during the times when I was competing, I also got the opportunity to film and do super cool projects and stuff. So I feel like that is more driving me right now, because I feel like I can maybe say something more through that avenue. And I love the creativity and like just the feeling of family, and like we're creating something together, and we have an intent, like just something that we want to do together, and then see how that evolves. And there's not one winner who's like, you know, we're doing it together. And I just like that.
It's a team. It's
a team
It's
effort.
a team thing, but without, exactly. It's like, let's say this is it's like a team creative exercise.
Exactly. And then also like you get to ski maybe better conditions.
Yeah.
I mean, you get to like, I had so many amazing like runs on the tour, like in Alaska.
Like you said, it's that freedom of being able to go, oh, it's snowing here, let's go there
exactly.
right now, right? You don't have to, you're not on a schedule, you're on let's live our lives one storm at a time.
Yeah, and you get to ski a lot, and just like,
you said,
you know,
you mentioned before we started, you mentioned you were going back to promote a project that you were working on, and you just mentioned a project. What's that all about?
So that was a project that I did with Janina Kuzma.
Mm-hmm.
And
I saw her last night just as she was leaving. I got there right as she was leaving.
Yeah, and then also my sister Julia.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a thing for the North Face, going into Sarek in a national, like it's the big national park in Sweden, where the indigenous people, it's like their land. So that's where they have like, they herded the reindeers and stuff. So like you're not allowed to go in by snowmobile or helicopter or anything. You have to walk.
Okay.
And we just had this, like I was there the previous year, not exactly in Sarek, but like the national park just before Sarek, or like close, or on the border of Sarek. Together with a bunch, doing a project with them.
Yeah.
And then I just, you know, had the like one really amazing run, and I came down on this glacier. I got to do the first run out of our crew, and I was standing on this glacier, like looking out at Sarek, and I was like, whoa, like I was crying, like out of gratitude, and like I just felt like this is just such an amazing place, and I need to come. Like there's so much to do in there, and so then me and Janina had a project in mind that we wanted to do in Tasmania and Australia, but COVID happened, so we couldn't do it. And then we're like, okay, but we still want to do something, so let's do something that we can do right now, which was going to Sarek. Or I suggested that, and my friend was like, yeah, there's a run in there on this mountain called Lodobakta. It's a couloir. And he was like, this is the coolest run in Sweden.
So it was like a camping trip, like a mission?
Yeah, like a winter camp. So you have your sled that you pull behind you. Like
toboggan, yeah.
Yeah, we call them pulka in Sweden. So
we had like...
No, pulka.
Okay.
And you have, so this like, we had these old wooden polkas, and then we just went in.
Oh, like the traditional ones?
Yeah, the traditional ones. They were like refurbished from, there was this guy who makes like beautiful like... he buys them, or like finds them like 100 years old, and then he refurbished them, and then he sells them so they can be used for 100 more years.
Right.
So.
Or for someone to put it above their fireplace in their mansion or their
they're
chalet.
They're more for use,
Are
actually.
They?
Yeah, there's more like, you buy this to actually use them.
Right.
Yeah. And a lot of people in Sweden use them for these kind of reasons. And so, we went out in Sarek for 2 weeks and winter camping, and just went like, and that was the cool thing with this project, was like, okay, we have this goal and intention, but we're going to leave room for miracles. So whatever happens, like, we're just going to be open to see what happens. Yeah. See what happens. And it was so cool to have that intention from everyone, because it was the most amazing trip I've ever done. Like there was nobody complained during the 2 weeks, and it was crazy weather, like crazy cold and like windy and stormy and snowy, and
everyone was there because this is part of the adventure. This is what I signed up for.
Exactly. And like there was just no complaints. We just laughed kind of at situations. And
so to get kind of back to you a little bit is like scrolling through your Instagram page and listening to you speak today and knowing a little bit more about you. Words like gratitude and love and joy happiness, openness. That there's that theme. You're a very, very spiritual person.
Yeah.
Do you think, and we could talk for a couple more hours about how you developed and you practice and how you develop that practice, but do you find that when people are around you, and if you're aware of this or not, that they kind of absorb your energy and that more openness and calmness? I feel it. It could be the incense.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I mean, we all exude some energy, you know, and like we all know that if you're around someone who's super happy, it's like hard not to be happy.
True.
And if you're around someone who's super depressed, we all know it's like it kind of gets you a little bit low.
Right.
So I think, I mean, everyone gives something, and I mean, I wouldn't say that it was like, I think in our crew, like what happened on this trip is just like everyone is on the same page. Like me, like my whole family is super spiritual, and like we do this journey together. And Janine and me, like the first time we met, we just instantly clicked. Like we have the same
Vibration, frequency.
Yeah, exactly. We have the same frequency, and our guide, who was also a photographer, like he was also like super, you know, grounded, and our filmer as well. Like we were all giving that energy, and when everyone gives it, it amplifies.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are yourself in amongst of like a big crowd, then maybe it takes a little more energy to be able to I don't know how I should
to elevate
put it.
everybody to that point.
But if everyone like is elevated, like everyone gives, then it's like crazy what we can do together.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's like if you take a flashlight and then add a flashlight and add a flashlight, add a flash, eventually the whole room will be bright.
Exactly.
Right?
And that's how it works, and that's what I've like seen and experienced while I've been on like specific like trips like that, but also like if like more like spiritual stuff, like when I was doing my yoga teacher training and stuff, like just being in a room where everyone has the same intention and like just goes for it, it really like it's powerful.
Mm-hmm. And you are at a stage now where you feel comfortable teaching or coaching, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And you said, as I was looking at back to the Sister Summit, tying everything in.
Yeah.
Is you kind of led meditations, you led yoga in the morning, and did you do some speaking as well?
No, I actually only like I had the yoga practice, which is I just love teaching yoga because I love when you can have everyone in the same room to get into that, you know, natural state of being, and they're just like their purity and just Zen mode, I guess.
Yeah.
Because
Zen mode. I think it said Send mode. I'm like,
no,
yes.
like I mean that too.
Find your Zen before
Find
you
your
send.
Zen mode. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe that's a good slogan. No, but yeah, just like being, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
And I love teaching, and it's always, I guess, it's always evolving. Like it's not like it's gonna be this constant practice that you give, because you're always evolving yourself.
You mentioned that your family was quite spiritual as well. Did you find that you developed this kind of practice and more of this intention because of what you went through when you were younger, or did you just pick up, did your family already have that sort of thing and you just intensified it?
We already had, like, I remember before, like when I was super young, I was talking to another friend during the summit now, like how we both felt like when we were super young, we were just like thinking about like, why are we here? Why am I here in this life? And what happens after you die and stuff like that. So I just remember I was always thinking about that. And of course, like through my like years where I went through the whole thing, it was for sure like teaching me more and like diving deeper into that. But I just felt like it was always, I don't feel like I had like this specific awakening. It feels like it's always been there.
Mm-hmm.
And then just diving deeper
embracing
and
it a bit
and,
more.
Yeah, embracing it more, and then like
channeling your energy away from that dark period and putting it towards the light.
Yeah, and just like use like all of the darkness is just teaching us what we essentially are, you know, and just finding that light through that darkness, because the light is always there. It's just like veiled. And so when we just, even through the darkest periods of our lives, we can still feel that light and that calmness, if only for just a second, like, but it's always there. And that's because it is always there, because it is always constant. We often fail to recognize it, because we are so used to the ever changing, like everything changing around us, and like all of the stimuli and the appearances that's coming and going. So then we fail to recognize that there's something about us that is always constant, and that light is always constant. But you just have to be curious enough to get to know that part of yourself.
True. And then so you're at a stage now where you're able to kind of help people see that, coach it out of them.
Yeah, that's what, like,
draw back the blinds.
Yeah, that's what I feel like I'm here to do.
Really? Like, that's your purpose?
It is, yeah. And then how that operates is, I don't have a fixed way. Right now I feel like you can just by being your light, you give so much to the world. So that's something, like, sometimes we often get caught up in, like, I have to do a specific thing to, you know, how do I give this? But just by being, like, because we know that if you are with someone who is just so calm, so much light, you instantly feel good. And that person doesn't have to say anything.
And the opposite is true as well too. When you're around, because I've been guilty of that even recently, or in a recent project where I was a little stressed out, and it affected other people around me that made me really take notice.
Yeah.
And it upset me a little bit, where I was like, "Oh, I don't like this."
No, because you want to be able to give.
Right.
Yeah, and give something.
Give something positive, right? Because you can give negativity as well, right?
Exactly.
Interesting. And that's something that I'm really trying to, that's why I'm really excited about this conversation. I've been just quiet listening, because I'd love to connect more about this sort of thing. Because it's I believe, I don't know if I'm not a spiritual person, but I believe in energy. And I've talked about this a lot of times. I don't know how many times on the podcast, but like as you mentioned, when you're around those calm people, and there's waves of energy and that we can't quantify yet. We don't know how to measure. Science hasn't figured out how to do it, but it's there, right? Like you said, when you're in a room around someone calm, you're like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
Or say you walk into a room where two people just had an argument.
Yeah, exactly.
And you don't even have to, you're like, what's going on? Like, they cut the tension with a knife, right? That's, that sort of saying is true, because it's like the air is thick with this energy that we can perceive, but we don't know how we do it or where it comes from. But then on the opposite, you walk in and it's like someone's in a great mood, and you're like, oh, this person's in a great mood. It's exciting, you know. It's nice to be around you. It's cool. I'd like to explore that more myself.
Yeah.
Do you plan on doing any do you do any gatherings or getaways or retreats, anything like that?
Yeah, so me and my brother, we've been like doing stuff together, and that's kind of always been, it's always our mission to like host retreats. Or like, we actually almost bought this hostel this fall. Like, me and my siblings and my sister's boyfriend and his brother, like, we found this place and we were like, whoa, like,
where?
In like outside of Åre.
Oh, right, in Sweden.
Yeah, and we were like, okay, like, this is actually like, first we found this school that cost like not much, but it was such like, you had to like do a lot,
right,
with like, so we were like, okay, no, this is not gonna happen. This is like burying yourself.
Being calm isn't gonna fix some concrete or plumbing.
No,
right?
exactly. Like, this needs to be fixed, you know. So, and then my sister, she's like, but what about this place? It was like all good to go, kind of. And so we went to see it, and it was just like, wow, like, this is so beautiful. Like, maybe this, like, it felt super aligned. Like, if we could have this place, people could come here and like they could
stay and learn and do like
and just like
teacher
live.
training and things.
And just, but actually just live through that freedom. To live through that freedom and to just show different ways of accessing that, and through like, that's what snowboarding and skiing was teaching us as kids, was just that recognition of the freedom that we are. and then like, okay, how can I bring this into every aspect of my life? And then, okay, but how can I teach other people? Like, how can other people like tap into their own recognition of freedom? Like, whether it's I mean, there's so, like, maybe an artist, like when they're painting, they're in that, like, that's where they recognize that, or hosting a podcast, or talking, or writing, or singing, or
Anything.
building anything, really. Like when you are like following that inspiration, you are in that state and you're doing what you're supposed to do, kind of. You're living from that calling, and so that's like always kind of our, like, we're just finding ways of maybe having retreats where we can like hang out with kids and go like riding with them
And just show people that this is a way of life as well.
Exactly.
Right? Like you can live in a way where you can be more in touch and more open with your spiritual side, but still go and send a big fat cliff.
Yeah, so that's like, exactly. So me and my brother, like, we kind of had like this thing with all siblings and a friend, which we called Jedis of Love.
Jedis of Love?
Yeah, Jedis of Love. And then that kind of like, it was super beautiful. And like, we just held some yoga classes and like meditations and stuff. And now that kind of transformed now into what we now have. Maybe I shouldn't actually say the name right now, because it's kind of like,
it's not quite ready to be released yet.
No, it's kind of released, but it's kind of also like, I don't know. Anyways, what it is just this. It's the same thing, and it's me and my brother, oldest brothers. We live together now, and we've been holding these sessions, like yoga sessions, and he's a shaman, and he's amazing with sound healing.
Oh wow.
And like holds cacao ceremonies and stuff. So
it's one of those things where maybe hold off on the name, because the people that need to find it will.
Yeah, exactly.
They know, oh, this is available, and then if they need to, they'll seek it out, right?
So we're just trying to like build a foundation, I guess, from like, and just allowing it to sprout as it wants to. But that's like, for us, that's where we feel most purpose and joy, when we are able to give someone that, because it's not of like, it's about showing like a true like teacher is just an example of like what you can do yourself.
Right.
So it's not about someone having to like consume this practice or whatever. It's like, okay, learning and seeing what resonates for you, and then using your own, knowing that you are your own best leader. You are your own best guide in this life. And you just need to like, see someone. When you are inspired by someone, you're inspired because that's also inside of yourself. And they're just showing you what is possible. Mm-hmm. And then to remember, okay, boom, like I can also be this, and just being it from your own unique essence. So that's like the main thing that I wish to give.
Right.
Is people remembering their own, like,
making
thing.
People better.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really cool. I love that. And
so that's for sure like kind of the only
the next steps for you.
The next steps. And so I like,
and the great thing about that is you can tie it into what you love, which is skiing.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And then I just follow that excitement, like, okay, what is exciting right now? Well, maybe I want to do this extended teacher training, or maybe like yoga teacher.
Do you have plans for the winter, whether it's something with that and with your skiing career?
Yeah, so I'm always trying, like, finding ways of like, okay, where can I teach? And like, if it's just on a film trip to like, okay, guys, should we do a meditation, or like, do you want me to hold a yoga class? Or if it's
sister summit,
yeah,
sort of
exactly
thing, right?
So that's always there. And
I love it. You're like planning your winter trips around who you get to go and like meditate with.
Exactly. And but yeah, we're gonna do another film project with the bunch.
Oh, cool.
So that's happening.
This movie that they put out this year was spectacular.
Many Fantasies Later.
Yeah, and then was last year No Time for Matching Socks, the year before. Like every year they're moving into the, like, they're really creating their own thing.
Yeah.
Right? You know, there's all of those movies like the Matchsticks and the TGRs, which is like the, you know, the kind of the traditional ski porn stuff. And you get the little bits and pieces. Like, I found that a lot of the creative projects in the past, the ones that I really enjoyed were one-offs or like quick and simple or weren't repeated.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Bunch movies, I love that they're allowing their creativity to become. I think of their films more like albums.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like
Yeah.
if you think of it that way, like, okay, what are we gonna do in this next one? There's always something a little different.
Exactly.
I love that they've creating their own sound with it and then going with and like the visuals.
Mm.
They're artists and I really love watching their films.
Yeah, I was like, that crew was like for sure, like, since I kind of came in, like.
Did you grow up with
watching.
them?
No, like I've known Magnus since we were kids. We say that we're family because my cousins is also his third cousins or whatever. I don't know what exactly.
So you're related in some super far distant way.
But we're not related through blood because he's related through their
the marriages,
the mom, and I'm related through their dad. But still, like, we've known each other, like, followed each other since we were kids. And then I got to know them, like, more and more and more, like, one at a time, kind of.
Yeah.
More and more, and, like, meeting up in Riksgränsen and stuff. And then they asked me, like, 2 seasons ago, like, if I wanted to join them on the Magnus mission up in Akka with the story of his great grandfather who skied this mountain, or it's not skied, but he was the first, like,
mountaineer.
Documented,
right.
At least. Like, of course, people have been there before, like, not like the indigenous people of Sweden, but still, yeah. So that was my first, like, filming with them and like real trip with them, and we just we're just family.
I like it. Are you able to keep up with them on the swerve?
Not on the swerve. I'm learning still.
Yeah, are they teaching the swerve? You
Yeah.
can teach them. They can teach you the swerve all day, and then you can sit them down and be like, "All right, now we're gonna get in touch with our inner swerve."
Yeah, exactly. No, but they're really, like, into the inner swerve as well, which is why
which is what it shows in their films.
Exactly,
right.
Which is why we connect so deeply, because we all are on the same path.
Right.
And like, they're Jedis, so
yeah, cool.
Yeah, just like Jedi council, I guess. So so we're gonna film this season as well, and then I'm gonna film together with Hedvig for her project.
Right. Exciting.
Yeah.
Lots of stuff going on.
So super fun. Yeah, I'm super excited.
And there's probably no better way to start the season than the week that you just had.
No, I mean, there was such a good, like, setting intentions for the season, just being able to ski deep how with the most amazing humans and evolve together. So
terrific. And then we're doing I haven't recorded it yet. I may have released it. I don't know which order it's going to be released in, but I'm going to be sitting down with them tomorrow, and I'm going to get them to give us all the details and where it came from, how it got started, and what happened.
Yeah, sweet. That's going to be so cool to
awesome.
listen
Well,
to.
Thank you so much for inviting me into the room here in the Sutton. As you're packing up, getting ready to go, opening day tomorrow. So I'll see you on the hill in the morning.
Yeah, see you in the hill, and thanks for having me, and enjoy your season.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching this video on the LPP YouTube channel. If you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. It would mean a lot to me. And while you're here, you may as well watch this great LPP highlights video. Thanks.